your idea of a nightmare, keep watching. It is rare for ships to find themselves in serious trouble, and even rarer for the crew to be forced to abandon ship.
Good line, good speed.
This can normally be found on the bridge, and in the engine control room, and in accommodation areas such as the mess and recreation room. The information is provided in the working language of the ship and is specific to your vessel. Take time to familiarize yourself thoroughly with your ship's survival systems. If you wait until there's an emergency, it could be too late. As we showed in part 1 of this series, it is the ship's muster list which states which lifeboat you must use. The muster list also identifies the signal that will start the abandoned ship procedure.
All crew to abandon the ship.
And specifies an individual's duties and responsibilities in an emergency.
Alberto, in case of fire in the engine, to assist wearing and bring extra cylinders.
These should be familiar from regular drills. Once the crew has mustered and a head count has been taken, the bridge must be informed.
So mustering completed, all accounted for.
Never board a lifeboat until the person in charge gives the order.
Okay, let's go, gentlemen.
Is clear to launch. Over.
If you work on a ferry or cruise ship, you may have to help passengers board the lifeboats.
Follow me, please.
Many of them may feel nervous, coping with an emergency situation in an unfamiliar environment. If you are confident with the lifeboat launching procedure, it will help to calm their nerves and ensure a swift and safe evacuation of the ship. Let's look first at Davit-launched lifeboats. On many ships, lifeboats are now fully enclosed, so the person in charge can steer the boat and operate the safety systems from a protected control position. Some enclosed lifeboats have to be lowered to an embarkation deck, but are boarded in the stowed position and then launched. They can be launched from the deck using a brake release lever or from inside the lifeboat. Although not always mandatory, it is good practice to use fall prevention devices, FPDs, when any lifeboat is being lowered or lifted with persons in the lifeboat. Unless the lifeboat has either an offload hook system or has been approved for use without an FPD. The officer in charge should ensure that these are properly fitted before starting any drill or testing, inspection or maintenance procedures. The launch procedure begins by checking that the harbour pins, lifeboat gripes and brake lever locking pin have been removed, and that the water below is free of obstacles, debris and people. Boarding is carried out under the supervision of the lifeboat crew, who must direct evacuees to their seats, starting with positions furthest from the doors and spread out evenly to distribute the weight. Evacuees should make sure they are in the seat they have been allocated and firmly strapped in, using the correct fastening, if fitted. They should all be wearing life jackets. The lifeboat has bottom plugs that must be set, and the painter should be passed out of the forward hatch and secured. Once this has been done and everyone is on board, the doors and hatches can be secured. At this point, the person in charge straps themselves into their seat and starts the engine. Full instructions for operating the engine of the lifeboat and its routine maintenance can be found in the ship's SOLAS training manual. Some davit-launched enclosed lifeboats are lowered from on board the ship using the brake release lever. The person who lowered the boat then climbs down the embarkation ladder to board the lifeboat. Alternatively, some lifeboats are lowered from inside the boat. The person in charge pulls on the self-lowering cable to release the brake and start the descent. It must be pulled down until it can't be pulled any further. An automatic brake on the winch controls the speed of descent. The descent can be stopped entirely at any time by releasing the tension on the cable. The release mechanisms on these lifeboats can operate both on load, when the hooks are supporting the boat's weight, or offload when the boat is in the water. It is crucial that the lifeboat is not released too early, and all on-load release systems must have built-in mechanical safeguards to prevent that happening in error. On-load systems have the two falls connected to the lifeboat's pivoted hooks. The mechanism is arranged so that both falls are released simultaneously. As well as the hook and cam release system, there is an alternative system that works with an open-top cone. A further safeguard against early release is the hydrostatic interlock in the keel of the lifeboat. This prevents release until the keel is under the water. Although there is an option to override this mechanism. This procedure must be initiated only by the person in charge. Make sure you are familiar with the release mechanism fitted to the survival craft on your ship. Knowing how it works could be the difference between escape or not. Once disconnected from the falls, the lifeboat is now under its own power, with the person in charge at the helm. At this point, the painter is let go with a release lever in the bow, and the vessel can head far enough away from the ship to avoid any hazard. Once clear of the ship, the EPIRB distress beacon will be activated and secured to the vessel. The SART rescue transponder will also be mounted and switched on. The person in charge will use the onboard radio to gather all of the survival craft together. Lifeboats must be maintained as per manufacturer's instructions, and it's recommended that only original manufacturer's material is used when replacing any part or piece of equipment. The stores must also be checked and replaced in line with flag state requirements. Most passenger ships carry partially enclosed lifeboats, and the types of release gear are similar to those used for totally enclosed boats. The winch operator lowers the lifeboat to the embarkation deck, where it must be securely bowsed. Bowsing methods can vary widely, so you should consult your ship's SOLAS training manual for detailed instructions. Before anybody enters the lifeboat on an exercise drill, you must confirm that the fall preventer devices are in place and have been checked for security by a person in charge. Only then can the person in charge enter the boat, turn on the main battery, and manually disconnect the external power supply. At this point, the lifeboat will be swung into the embarkation position, and boarding can begin. The lifeboat party will make the process as easy as possible for passengers by opening the ship's rails, positioning steps, and the passengers will be directed to their seats to ensure an even distribution of weight.
Okay, that's okay.
The first to board will be placed furthest from the entrance. It is the person in charge's role to take command of the evacuees.
Please remain seated, remain calm, and listen to the instructions of the crew.
As good leadership is an important factor in survival situations. Bear in mind that any passengers may need extra reassurance. Your calm and well-rehearsed acceptance of the situation can be a great help.
Main thing, please remain seated. Thank you.
Lifeboat 2, full and
Once
ready
the
to launch.
order to launch has been received from the master,
Lifeboat 2 is clear to launch. Over.
the boat can be lowered. This is done either by a winch operator or from within the boat. It is the responsibility of the person in charge to release the boat at the end of its descent. There remain a few ships still fitted with open lifeboats, but enclosed or partially enclosed boats are far better at protecting survivors from the weather in an emergency. The other main type of lifeboat fitted on cargo ships is the free-fall lifeboat. This is not lowered from davits, but descends directly into the water, down a ramp. These boats are prepared for launch by releasing the chocks that secure the boat and disconnecting the external power supply. This will be done by a designated officer, who then enters the boat and switches its electrical system to battery power. These craft can descend to a depth of 3 meters when launched, so you must check that the landing area is clear of debris or rocks. Maintenance is important for free-fall lifeboats. The rollers on the ramp must be maintained according to the manufacturer's instructions. You need to take particular care when boarding, as you have to cope with a steep angle and restricted space in the boat's interior.
Try to find your seat. There is a number there.
It is essential that the boarding is carried out in a calm and organized manner. All evacuees should be carrying life jackets. Some ships carry thinner, inflatable life jackets for use in free-fall lifeboats. As with davit-launched boats, the distribution of the occupant's weight is crucial. Seats may be allocated in advance. If not, the person in charge will direct crew as required. And that person in charge is then last to enter and will seal the door for launch. Once boarded, you need to strap yourself in. Make sure you are familiar with the type of harness used.
Ready to launch. You have to embrace yourself, hold the belt like this.
And can identify the right strap for your seat. Some lifeboats are also fitted with head restraints. If your boat doesn't have these, consider wearing your hard hat to minimize any possible head damage on launch. Then it is time for the final pre-launch check. Has the designated person brought the emergency equipment, such as EPIRB and SART?
Have you got the EPIRB and SART?
Is everyone firmly secured in their seat? Have you checked that there are no loose tools or other items that could fly around and injure people? It is the person in charge's role to take command of the evacuees, as good leadership is an important factor in survival situations. The engine is started. If the motor should fail, the lifeboat can still be used, as the speed of its descent will carry it clear of the ship. With the engine running, the propeller should be in neutral. Then the release handle is operated, and the lifeboat launched. As the lifeboat will enter the water at speed, the rudder is put over to take the boat away from the ship and any other hard objects that could damage the lifeboat. Once the lifeboat is in the water, the person in charge will begin to get it clear of the stricken ship. They will have to determine what constitutes a safe distance, depending on prevailing conditions and the nature of the emergency. Streaming a drogue or sea anchor will keep the head into the wind. Maintain position with other survival craft to aid detection by rescue services. By this time, evacuees should have been issued with anti-seasickness tablets, which they must take. Crew must stay strapped in their seats.
Stay seated, gentlemen. Keep your seatbelt on.
These boats are self-righting, but only if everyone is strapped in. The engines are designed so that they will still function, even if the lifeboat has rolled over. Some lifeboats have safety systems that protect them from fire and toxic gases.